When Nick Saban decided he was going to retire and Kalen DeBoer took over, you had a swath of people, and some of it is just out of fandom or hatred of Alabama, think that, oh, Alabama is going to totally fall off in recruiting now. It's going to go back to mediocrity. They're not going to be able to get the type players that they've gotten. And look, I'm not saying Kalen DeBoer is going to be the recruiter that Nick Saban was. I mean, Nick Saban was the best head coach recruiter that we've ever seen, in my opinion, and a lot of people's opinions. But Alabama, especially right now, because look at the situation Kalen DeBoer inherited from Nick Saban. It wasn't the same situation that Nick Saban inherited when he took over, right? The machine's pretty much fully built. Yeah, they lost some guys in the portal, but Alabama recruits itself. It's going to take years of mediocrity on the field, of Alabama slipping as a brand by on-the-field production, for you to see a big, significant drop in recruiting. Now, they're ranked number 2 overall by On3 right now behind Ohio State. They're killing it. And I'm not trying to say Kalen DeBoer is not a good recruiter. He is a good recruiter. But let's not act like all of a sudden all these high school players are going to be like, well, Alabama sucks now, I'm not going. That's not how it's going to work. And even if they do struggle on the field, Alabama is such a big brand. They pump so many resources into recruiting. They're going to get guys sent to the NFL every year. The drop-off, even if there is going to be one, will not be super significant, right? Even when it was at its worst with Mike Shula, they were finishing like 19th, 20th in recruiting rankings. Now, do I think they're going to finish number 1 in recruiting every single year like they did a lot under Nick Saban? No, I think Kirby Smart's going to take that moniker, and there's a couple other guys that are going to be up there. But Alabama's not going anywhere in recruiting. And whether you love them, whether you hate them, whether you're indifferent to Alabama, that's just how it is. It's just like LSU can have these coaches bounce around, this guy. They're still going to be able to recruit really well. So I never bought into the narrative of, oh, Alabama's just going to fall off a cliff from a recruiting standpoint.
Well, I think you have a point there, but one, there has been zero drop-off. Zero drop-off from Nick Saban and Kalen DeBoer. I don't think anybody expected that. I think you'd have seen at least a little bit of a drop-off in recruiting so far. And I do think Nick Saban has built Alabama to where it is, but no one wants to be the guy after Nick Saban, right? No one wants to be the guy after the guy. But right now, Kalen DeBoer came in and he's doing really well in the transfer portal. He's doing really well with the NIL, and these are new things that I don't think Nick Saban wanted to do. But if you're going to be that guy after that guy, you have to bring your own type of thing, your own type of twang. And I feel like Kalen DeBoer is somewhat doing that. Does Alabama recruit itself? For sure. But you can't have a dud in there and go and recruit. At least now, Bama fans can see that Kalen DeBoer is not a dud in recruiting. He can recruit the South.
No, he's not a dud. I can't stand that, oh, you got to be from here to recruit here. That's a bag of bullshit. What I'm saying is they haven't played a game yet. There's been no games played. Kalen DeBoer has won a ton. He just took Washington to the national championship game. And Kalen DeBoer and this staff, because it's a team effort, he can recruit. I don't think he's going to be Nick Saban in recruiting at the end of the day, but we still haven't played a game yet. The on-the-field perception of your team, I can look at the inverse and say the inverse with Auburn right now, right? The on-the-field perception of your team bleeds into recruiting. The only thing that can make Alabama less sexy is if they stop winning on the field. Because you do have programs, and Alabama's a blue blood, top of the top blue blood. Nobody's arguing that. But you do have programs that if you lose over time, that shine in recruiting starts to wither. My whole point is with Alabama, it's going to take a Game of Thrones size ice wall of mediocrity over time for that to shift. So this isn't a Kalen DeBoer's just sitting there and players are just coming to Alabama, but they have not played a game yet. I'll continue to say that I think, and I've said this since the second he got the job, and then all of a sudden a lot of people start saying it, that Kalen DeBoer's tenure at Alabama will be defined by the level of freakout by the Alabama fan base when something like it always does inevitably goes wrong. Because when something went wrong under Nick Saban, right? I'll go back to last year. One of the best coaching jobs I think Saban did. You lose to Texas, right? Then you go and look bad against USF. Jalen Monroe doesn't play in the game. Yes, Alabama fans freaked out. Yes, Alabama fans were upset. There was a little bit of panic, but Nick Saban has built up so much equity with that fan base that they say, you know what? We had a bad game. We lost a game. We don't look good right now, but damn it, it's Nick Saban. and he's going to fix it. And he did. The first time something goes wrong with Alabama, Kalen DeBoer does not have that equity built up with the Alabama fan base. So what you don't want to have happen is all of a sudden you go and something catastrophic happens at Wisconsin. And let's say you just lose that. I don't think they will, but you lose that game and then you lose to Georgia. The level of freak out by Alabama fans from what's happening on the field mixed with the lackluster results that just happen on the field can dent you in recruiting. We're just not to that point yet. That's what I'm looking for, because something always inevitably goes wrong. It inevitably went wrong with Nick Saban at some points, the greatest of all time. It inevitably goes wrong with Kirby Smart sometimes, Dan Lanning, even Kalen DeBoer. So my whole point to the audience, to our college football fans, is that Alabama is not going anywhere in recruiting unless you have years of stacked mediocrity on top of each other that you can point and say, you know what, Alabama's not what they used to be. They'll still recruit well, but that shine isn't going to be there.
All right, I agree. I do have Alabama's schedule pulled up if you want to go through it at some point. We're going to start the day off with Connor. What is up, Connor? And Chad, hit that like, hit that subscribe button. If you donate, it's on topic. It will get read. Connor says, what is the leash for Kalen DeBoer, and how many years do they let him go before he is on the hot seat? Once Milroe is gone, they really are starting over.
Well, and I think the piece with Jalen Milroe being there, the most important or one of the top 3 most valuable things that Jalen Milroe gives you, 2 of them are obviously on the field, but if something does go wrong, Jalen Milroe has that locker room. You had that transitory piece stay, right? You had your quarterback stay, the guy that came on at the end, the guy that's next up, the golden one. So if something goes wrong and the media starts yapping and chirping like they will, Jalen Milroe can keep that locker room together as Kalen DeBoer kind of wades through this new team that he has. But as far as a leash, I mean, I think, you can go 9-3, sneak in the playoffs, and go win a national championship. So if you need to define the leash for me, is the leash you got to win a national championship within the first 5 years, or at least play for one in the first 5 years? Because Alabama fans, you can go 11-1, right? Win the SEC championship, and if you don't win the national championship, Alabama fans are not going to be happy about that. And you know what? That's a high-class problem, but that's what Nick Saban got you. That's the hardest part of this for Kalen DeBoer. I don't think they're going 7-5. I mean, if something disastrous happens, that leash is going to be short. But if you sit here and go 10-2 and 10-2 and 11-1, but you're not winning national championships, I mean, these are the same people that Nick Saban didn't win it for 3 years, and they're like, all right, he's got to go. Right? Because once you have sip from the cup, you look at Clemson fans with Dabo Swinney. That's why all of a sudden you're starting to see him, put him on the raft and slowly start to push him off the shore, because he let them sip from the cup. They ate the filet mignon. They won the championship. Once you're drinking the best wine and you're eating the best food, you don't want to go back. You don't want to go back to bologna and Spam. You want that filet. You want that bone-in ribeye. You want that New York strip. You want that Wagyu beef. You don't want the old stuff. You don't want to go back and have to be drinking Kool-Aid jammers, right? You want that upper echelon stuff they're bringing in from boats. So if we're talking leash, are we talking championship or nothing else matters? Because we are entering a time, and it pains me to say this, not to be too long-winded, where teams that have not won teams that have won conference championships, you're not going to be that upset if your team goes 10-2, doesn't play in the conference championship game, and then gets to make a run in the playoff. Like you look at Alabama, they've won a boatload of SEC championships, right? They would much rather not win the SEC championship and then go make a run in the college football playoff, because it doesn't mean as much to them. But then you look at a team like Ole Miss, who's never won the SEC championship. They split with LSU in the Western Division in 2003, I believe, but didn't get to play in Atlanta. So that conference championship game means more. That means more to that fan base, right? I think they would much rather win the SEC, okay, and then get put out in the first round of the playoff than not win the SEC and get put out in the second round of the playoff. So, again, if we're going to talk leashes, I think we got to be specific on are we talking national championship or bust? Are we talking about if you don't win more than 9 games, they're going to fire you after 2 years if you go 9-3 2 years in a row? So I think we got to be a little more specific. Hey, everybody on YouTube. Appreciate you guys stopping by. If you haven't subscribed already, please do that. If you know a friend, tell them to subscribe. It helps the show grow. Turn that notification bell on and like the video, because all that stuff somehow with science and math comes together to help everyone.